Are you ever too young to learn how to network? I'm Greg, I'm the introverted networker. And in this episode, I'm speaking directly to college, high school students, talking about the skill of networking. And sometimes I present to college students or high school students and I talk about networking, and they just kind of look at me and think, why do I need to know this now? I wish that when I was in high school, somebody had talked about what networking was and what networking wasn't, because I had the wrong idea about networking until much later in life. And I always looked at networking as something that other people did. It wasn't something I did. It was something that I wasn't comfortable doing. And part of that was because I didn't really understand what it was and what it wasn't. And so when I go talk to students about this, I try to share with them a different perception on it and show them that it's something they can start doing, something they can learn how to do now that's going to benefit them in a lot of ways down the road. Now, it is that time of the year when there's a lot of graduations going on. There's college graduations, high school graduations, and everybody's sharing their top things that they wish they knew when they were in high school or college. And so the one thing I wish I knew was how to network. I think it would have really helped me out, especially in college, maybe not so much high school. High school, it might be good to start learning about the concepts, but college is when you're really on your own, when you're going to start forming relationships around your major or people who are going to be in the same industry as you, and you're really starting to prepare for a career or a professional life outside of school. So I think, honestly, if you kind of learned a little bit about it in high school, but then you really started to learn how to do it in college, that would be beneficial. But there's a few things that I commonly hear from college students when I present to them about networking that I want to address in this video. And if you're not in college, if you're not in high school, if this is you listening as a professional, these things apply to you as well. And also, you might know somebody who's in college that really needs to hear this. It would be something cool you could share with them, especially coming up on their graduation. Maybe a little gift, not their major graduation gift, but something you could just share with somebody you know who might be getting ready to go into college, or even if they're graduating from college, these tips could help as well. But whenever I go and I talk to college students about networking, I run through my 5-step process, and inevitably they have a few different objections or a few different questions they ask me about this. So as you know, I always talk about starting with who you know. I say the best place to start networking is with who you already know, because in their minds, they're thinking of networking as going to the college career fair and meeting some strange people and shaking hands and trying to get a job that way. Or they think about it as, maybe they have an internship or something like that. And what I really try to tell them is, a lot of people, even people you meet in college, who could be helpful for growing your professional network in the future. So think a little bit differently. Don't think about the person who works at the company you want to work at. Think about other people who might be connected to them, or other people who can help get you introduced to them. So a lot of people that college students know is, number one, they know other college students, of course, right? That's who they're around all the time. But there's different college students at different progressions in their college career. So for example, a lot of times, even if you're just starting college, you're going to meet upperclassmen. And upperclassmen are great people to connect with and start building relationships with. Why? They're a couple steps ahead of you. And so if you connect with upperclassmen or start to develop relationships with some of them, they are going to be starting to interview, starting to have internships, starting to build these sort of professional connections. They are great people to get insight from in terms of what the process was like. And so develop those relationships with upperclassmen, because they are going to be the ones in a couple of years, when you are an upperclassman, that are already out in the world doing the jobs that you may want to do. So don't just think, hey, I just started school, I'm a freshman, I got to talk to freshmen. Of course, you're going to build relationships with freshmen. But as you meet upperclassmen, maybe in classes or organizations, really focus on cultivating those relationships and being somebody that, talks to them and kind of gets their advice and insight. So that's number one, upperclassmen. I think number two is other people who are in your major or your school, things like that. Of course, you're going to develop those relationships in class, but as you start talking about careers and professionals development and things like that, make sure you're connecting with your classmates, and not just like, hey, let's trade assignments, but really like, what are you thinking about doing? What are you thinking about going in your career? What companies are you interested in? Just kind of learn from people what they're going to do. And again, these people are going to be friends because you're in college with them. But again, think of it a little bit down the road as like, who am I going to want to stay connected with so that when they go out in the world, I can talk to them and maybe there's somebody they can introduce me to. So upperclassmen, other people in your major or your school, I would say also your professors. You are going to have your professors and you're going to have sort of a relationship with them as in terms of them teaching you and you learning from them. But don't just leave it at that. Don't just take them for one semester and then never talk to them again. Go in and kind of build that relationship so that you can come back and maybe get advice from you. Because the one thing about professors is they know a lot of people that work out in the world. A lot of times they do research with people. They talk to companies. I mean, they're connecting in their world too. So they'll know some of the people in your industry who that would be great to connect you with. So students do have a lot of options in terms of people they can connect with to build a more professional relationship. You just kind of got to be a little bit more creative and tap into it and think about all the other people who have connections out into the world that you want to get out into. Now, the second thing that students will tell me when I'm sort of talking about my process is we'll say start with who you know, and we kind of get past that objection, and we'll say, connect with people online, but talk to them in real life. And they'll kind of ask me, they'll say, hey, well, when should I start my LinkedIn profile? Or I don't have one, or it's not really built out. Like, what do I do with that? I would recommend if you're in college, you start working on your profile on LinkedIn as soon as you get in college. And here's why. It takes time to grow a LinkedIn profile. It takes time to post every once in a while. It takes time to comment on people's posts. It takes time to find connections you want to connect with. That takes time. And while you're in college, you have that time. I don't mean you have a ton of time because you still got classes and activities and all those things, but you have the time to let your profile grow, let your connections grow. You don't need anything from them right away. So get your profile created, go online. There's plenty of guidance on how to make a great LinkedIn profile, and then start engaging. Don't just create it and leave it there for 4 years. Go out and find interesting people you want to follow, people who are doing the thing you want to do in life, or things you think you want to do. I mean, you may think you want to do one thing and you start following. Let's say you think you want to be pre-law and be an attorney. You start following a bunch of attorneys and see what they talk about, and you realize, I don't want to be an attorney. It's a great way to kind of assess what people are doing out in the world. So follow people who are kind of doing the thing you think you want to do. And then don't just sit there and lurk. Like if you see somebody posting, again, I'm going to use the attorney example, ask questions. And you're going to have something like pre-law student or student at what certain university and just be like, how did you get into this? Or how did you decide to do this? Or how did you know this is what you wanted to do? They're going to look at that and they're going to be like, oh, it's a college student. Of course they're going to ask that question. Don't feel like they're going to be like, oh, who's this person like posting this really remedial question? They're not going to think that. If they see your profile and they're like, oh, this is a pre-law student. Yeah, I would love to give them advice. So use it to your advantage, because right now you're in school, and if anybody sees your profile and sees that you're a student, they're going to assume you're asking questions to learn. And a lot of people really want to help people who are, in college or trying to get into the field. They're happy to give advice, and they understand you're only asking. And at one point, they were there, right? You're only asking to learn, and they know what that feels like. So they're happy to help. So use that to your advantage. Use this sort of, I'm the new person who doesn't really know anything, so I can ask basic questions that, nobody's going to say like, oh, what an idiot. Why did you ask that question? Right? They're going to be like, okay, you're in college, you're trying to learn, and I was once there. So I would start working on your LinkedIn profile right away and start connecting with those people who are in the world that you want to be in, and embrace that you're a beginner. Embrace that mindset. Embrace that you're trying to learn outside of just what your classes teach you. So, that's a common thing that comes up is like, what do I do with my LinkedIn profile? Use it to make connections, use it to learn, use it to figure out if you want to be in that industry or not. It's a great source for that. Another thing that I hear a lot from college students, because we get into the listen and give part of this. So you could connect with somebody on LinkedIn who's maybe in a field you want to be in, and maybe they agree, they're like, hey, yeah, let's talk for 15 minutes. I can tell you what I know. And so you're listening to what they're talking about. And then I talk about giving, and people are like, I'm in college. They don't need anything from me. Like, I have nothing to give. And I always push back on that, because I say, you know what you do have? You have a different perspective. You have your generation's perspective on things. And if you're in college right now, your generation has a different perspective on the world than the people who are out in the professional world. So you can always say, like, hey, from somebody who's my age, here's how we look at it, which is a different perspective. Or you can say, like, hey, this is kind of what the ideas I'm hearing on campus are. This is what I'm learning. Does that connect with what you experience out in the world? And for a lot of people who might be talking to you, maybe they're 10 years ahead of you in their career. It's been 10 years since they've been in college. They're not teaching the same thing and the same ideas. So you might have something new that you can share that you're learning in your classes that you don't necessarily, those people aren't getting because they're in their industry, they got their heads down, they're not around some of the newer ideas that are maybe coming out in colleges. So share your perspective. Don't be afraid to say, this is what it looks like when you're somebody my age who's getting into this right now. That could really be valuable for the other person who you're talking to. So don't think you don't have anything to give to people when you're sort of having these conversations. You do have a lot more to give than you probably realize. So really tap into what is it that a person who's in college is getting to experience that a person who's been out of college for a number of years isn't getting to experience anymore. So that's a thing, again, that I get a lot of objections from college students who say, I don't have anything to give. I think that's a mistake. I think you actually do. And the last thing is, when we get to the part about being easy to help. And so college students are like, okay, what does that mean? And of course, when I talk about this and I talk about people getting jobs, I always tell you to have a target company list, companies that you're interested in that you want to make connections to. And so a great way to do that, if you're in college, is think about going to the career fair, the on-campus job career fair, because people will show up and there's booths and you can go to those booths, and it's okay. You can do that too. There's nothing wrong with doing that and getting to know people and giving them your resume. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what you want to do is get the list of all the people who are going to be there, all the companies, and go through that list and figure out, are these companies I'm interested in, right? Are these the ones I'm interested in? And use that to create your target company list. It doesn't have to be the whole career fair list. It's just the companies you're really interested in because you've done some research and the ones that you would walk around and talk to. Create your target company list from that. And then keep that. And over the time that you're in college, you're going to update it. And as you talk to your upperclassmen friend who have gotten jobs or internships, what companies did they get jobs or internships at? Add those to the list. See if they're ones that you want to consider. And keep that list up to date so that when you're talking to people, you're connecting with these people online, they're like, what jobs are you interested in? What companies are you interested in? You give them the list and you say, here's my target company list. And they go, oh, that's great. I can connect you with this guy that I've worked with. I know somebody who works at one of these places now. I could totally connect you with them. And boom, you make that connection. So you can use a lot of the things going on in college to your advantage to really start connecting and build that network so that when you get to the point where you're looking at finding a job, you're looking at graduation, you're looking at what's next, you have this whole network that's already in place and ready to help you. So those are the things that if I was in college again, I would love somebody to have told me, because I would have focused my efforts more on this. As it was when I was in college, I was doing networking, but I wasn't really thinking about how I was doing it. I was meeting people through student organizations. I was really involved in a lot of student organizations. And honestly, that was how I connected with my first job. There was on-campus interviewing, but I only really knew what to do and what to say because of upperclassmen who had gone to work at those companies that were friends of mine from these organizations said, you should really interview here. This is how they do the interviews. This is kind of the things you need to focus on saying in the interviews. And also, they were helping with campus recruiting. So when it came time for them to like sort of assess people, some people asked them, say like, who is this guy? What do you think of him? And they were like, yeah, he's great. I worked with him in this organization. So I was really doing a lot of networking. I didn't know it. It was kind of like accidental networking. But I think you can be way more intentional with your networking. So hopefully these tips help you out. If you're somebody who works with college students, forward this to them. If they have questions, please have them reach out to me. I would love to connect with more college students and help them with their networking while they're in college. But for those of you who are not in college, again, share this with somebody who is, or think about these things for your own networking, because it applies the same if you're just looking for a new job. All those things I said, you just have to kind of put a new lens on it. And those things will help make networking a lot less awkward. Hopefully that helps you. Go out this week. Have a great week. If you're graduating, congratulations. I'm sure you've got great stuff ahead of you. And go out, meet some interesting people, and remember, always be connecting.